Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Stride workshop, part of Positively Staying In Together programme. Tonight we've got a very special session for you, and we're joined once again by our own Andre Smith. Some of you will have seen Andre about the Positive East building. He's been with us for a few years, and he's a recognised figure. He coordinates our counselling department. But Andre approaches has an holistic approach to his work, and he's heavily involved with mindfulness. He's been doing mindfulness workshops regularly on Zoom since the beginning of lockdown. But Andre, you've been doing mindfulness sessions for a while now. Can you tell us what your involvement with mindfulness has been so far?
Well, my involvement with mindfulness kind of goes back probably before it became a buzzword and it became into sort of the collective consciousness. I've been really interested in this as a practice, as an attitude for a long time. More recently, some of the attendees tonight will know that I've been doing mindfulness meditation sessions during the week, but prior to that, we have done in the past sort of longer courses that have been sort of 6 to 8 weeks, where we go really deeply into all the dimensions of mindfulness. And hopefully the plan is that later on in the year we'll be offering some more courses. So today's workshop, and I'll just go into it from your question, if I may, then Greg. Yeah, today's workshop is really just a brief introduction to mindfulness, as I said, as a practice, as an attitude for life, and as a way of being that can really significantly reduce stress and anxiety and promote new levels of self-awareness that help us to live more fully in the present moment. The basic principles of mindfulness are very simple and much more practical than they are academic, I'm happy to report. Mindfulness practice basically teaches us a particular way of paying attention that brings things into a new focus. So it's kind of like a whole new way of experiencing the world. That's a big headline to say, but hopefully by the end of the session today, you may get a taste of that. There's only so much I can say in trying to explain it, because I think for it to mean anything, it has to be experienced directly. So, and this workshop is really designed to help people experience a deep state of mindfulness and to give the basic tools and principles so we can cultivate mindfulness into a daily practice for everyday life. So I guess if anything to take away, I'd like people to take away from this hour that we're spending together is just an understanding that within all of us, there is this amazing resource that we can access at any time to positively, but perhaps more importantly, to really helpfully manage stress, anxiety, overwhelm, compulsive thinking, and to generally manage the pressures and challenges of daily life that we all face. And also, I think just to understand and to learn that our attention is something that we can actually direct rather than it being something we are led by. So learning to focus our attention is actually a trainable skill. I learned this years ago, and it has been one of the greatest things I ever learned. It just brings so many benefits. I think paying attention to the here and now is really what the mindfulness teaches us, because the present, the here and now moment, is where life is actually happening. It's our point of power, and it's the only place where we can actually make any helpful change. So with that as a sort of introduction, let's get going. And I just want to start off with a very quick focusing exercise. This won't take more than 45 seconds. So just starting now, I want to invite you all to just quieten your mind, focus on your breath, and basically, as best as you are able, not to think any thoughts for the next 30 seconds. I'll keep track of the time. So as you continue to listen to me, I just want you to clear your mind of any thoughts, even thoughts about what I'm asking you to do right now. You can close your eyes if it helps you to block out any visual stimuli, but keep your mind empty of thoughts. No thinking required for these next few moments. Just focus on your breath. No need to entertain any thoughts that pop up. Keep your mind focused on the breath only. We just want an empty, spacious, quiet mind. A thought-free mind. Okay, you can bring your attention back now. The exercise is over. Now I'm wondering if anyone managed to go the whole 45 seconds without a thought. When I ask in the face-to-face workshops that I normally do, today's on Zoom, so it's a little different, but when I ask in those face-to-face workshops who managed to only focus on their breath and not think about other things, very few hands raised. Very few people managed to just spend something like 30 or 40 seconds with no thoughts at all. When I ask who got caught up in or distracted by a thought, or who became frustrated with the exercise, or who wondered if others were doing better than them, nearly every hand goes up. Almost everyone in every class gets distracted from something as simple as focusing on the breath, even if it's only for a matter of 35 seconds. And interestingly, studies show that 49% of our waking time is lost to unfocused, random, anxiety-based thoughts that usually have nothing to do with the present moment where life is actually happening. When you think about that, 49% of our waking time is lost. That's quite an alarming number. That means half of our waking hours are spent in, lost in, drifting through, or just trapped in aimless, unfocused, mostly anxiety-based thoughts that are usually about revisiting a past that cannot be undone, or rehearsing a future that is yet to arrive. So the question is, what if we could win back some of that time? What if we could train our attention, so rather than looking backwards to an unchangeable past or mentally rehearsing a yet to happen future, we get to spend the majority of our time in the present moment, which is where life is. It's where life is actually happening. The here and now is where life is at. It's the only show in town, to be quite honest with you. So how might our experiences be different if we made a conscious effort to use some simple techniques that we're going to learn today that will help us to be fully present to what is actually happening in front of us, rather than getting caught up in unhelpful thoughts about what could be or what should be? It's a place where a lot of us spend a lot of our time. And just before we get into the first practice, I'm just going to briefly focus on understanding what mindfulness is, why we need it, and how we can practice it to help us change for the better the way we respond to life's challenges, both the internal and the external. And the internal challenges I'm talking about here are those thoughts, all the emotions, all the automatic behaviors that are triggered by the external factors, which is the people, the places, and the events happening around us. A lot of the stress that we suffer and experience comes from those external sources, not the people or places or events themselves, but rather our refusal to accept that we cannot control most of what is happening around us. And so we increase our upset, our suffering, our stress by trying to control what is happening around us. We want things to fit into our personal reality. And as I'm sure as many of you have come to realize, life never, ever matches our expectations. So we can, without realizing it, kind of set ourselves up for always being at odds with life, always trying to control things so they comfortably fit into our personal reality. Or perhaps we feel we're always running or chasing after things, or always thinking about and anticipating the next thing, our next move, worrying about what might happen next, finding ourselves continually revisiting an unchangeable past that's already happened. And this way of being, which I know probably some of you may relate to, this way of being can leave us feeling exhausted, stressed, anxious, uncertain, and ungrounded. We can end up feeling that life is something that's happening to us rather than something that we are able to manage, let alone enjoy. So whilst we can't control what happens around us, and even sometimes to us, mindfulness teaches us that the one thing we can control, and it's really where our power lies, is in our ability to choose how we respond to all those people, all those places, all the events, everything that's happening in our external world. Because it's a very, very different action to the automatic pilot reaction that seems to be the default setting for so many of us. So I'm just going to share my screen with you if this works. So mindfulness means just paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, and in the present moment. So it's really about bringing a particular quality of attention to what's happening right here and right now. So we could also say that being mindful is the opposite of being absent-minded or on autopilot, which, as those statistics showed earlier, we spend a lot of our time in. So another way of thinking about it is that mindfulness is taking control of your mind rather than allowing your mind to be in control of you. So this is a really useful, I've come to learn this over time, a really useful awareness enhancing skill that encourage us to bring interest and curiosity to our experiences, rather than those old reactions of sort of denial. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening? So that's kind of a simple way to explain it. Why do we need mindfulness? We need it because I think you'll agree with me, we are incredibly distracted. If you think about life today and mobile phones pinging with messages, Instagram, Facebook, there's text messages, there's voicemails, there's voice calls, there's reminders, there's updates, there's emails, there's tablets, there's laptops. I've written all these things down: games, consoles, media. And then there's the distraction of our family life, our personal life, our relationships, our friends. We're bombarded with images, flashing billboards, TVs, magazines, newspapers, all full of opinions, all wanting our attention. So we're kind of suffering in a way from a sort of collective attention deficit. So we are very, very distracted on sort of personal and collective levels. Why do we need mindfulness? Because we're very stressed. You know, all of that above causes us to be very stressed. And you know, if you think about it, I mean, imagine an alien landing on our planet and all that alien got to watch was news at 10. You know, I think that would be enough for that alien to say, do you know what, it's just too overwhelming on that planet, I'm out of here. I mean, we're living in very, very stressful times where there are pressures, you know, in our personal lives, in our communities, and at a global level, COVID just being one of them. You know, I mean, there's so much stress in the world at the moment. So, you know, it really is time, I think, or really important, I think, right now, to have some sort of tool, some sort of technique we can adopt and bring into our lives that helps us negotiate and manage our way through life, because we are bombarded. And the fact is, we're not really very good at managing our stress. So, you know, finding ways to manage that, I think, in this day and age is really probably one of the most important things we can do, you know, to just to experience a semblance of peace. You know, a peaceful mind is probably the most valuable thing in the world right now. Peaceful life, perhaps even more better. And talking of stress, I just want to just to sort of show you something I often do when I open up a workshop, and it's just a good way of demonstrating a point about stress. So I usually start by holding up a glass of water. And when people see me holding up this glass of water, they think I'm going to ask the classic question, you know, is this glass half full or is it half empty? But actually, what I ask people is, how much water do you think is in this glass? And people will answer anything from, oh, I don't know, 5 ounces, 10 ounces, you know, third of a litre or whatever. But again, the amount of water is not really the point. The point is how long I hold on to this glass. So if I hold on to this glass for just a short time, nothing much is going to happen. I'm able to manage that. If I hold on to this glass for a bit longer, my arm is going to start to ache. If I hold on to this glass all day, eventually my arm is going to get numb and it's going to get paralyzed, and it's going to be really, really difficult. So the idea is that the longer we hold on to this glass of water, the harder it is, and that can be likened to stress. You know, if we have a little bit of stress in our life, and we're coded for a little bit of stress, historically it helped us run from hungry lions who wanted us for lunch, you know, and then we sort of reset, but we don't reset now. So if we hold on to our stress for a little bit of stress is okay, we can manage that. A little bit longer and it starts to impact. But if we hold on to stress all day, eventually we just become paralyzed with it, and we can't think, we can't do anything. So the idea is that we must remember to put our glass of water down, as it were. And maybe at the end of the day, when we've been in the world and doing all the stuff we've been doing, to remember to let go of all those things that we can't even do anything about anymore, just to put it down and give ourselves a chance to reset. So put down your glass of water. It's just a sort of little mindful anecdote there. That helps people to sort of remember. Perhaps, in fact, that from now on, every time you have a glass of water, it might even trigger you. How much stress am I holding on to right now? Okay, so let's go into a practice. So I'm just going to come out of share for a minute and go into that. So This is going to be a breath-based mindfulness practice, and this practice helps us to cultivate some natural and inner peace. And I think this is a really good little mindfulness meditation to do, just to give us an idea of peace, what it is, how we can get it, and where it comes from. So just settling yourself into a comfortable sitting position. And if you're sitting on a chair, perhaps just coming away from the back of the chair, if that's comfortable for you. So the spine can be upright but not stiff, and the shoulders can be relaxed, and the chest opening, and the head balanced, and the chin just tucked slightly in. So just sitting with a sense of relaxed wakefulness, allowing the body to be steady, to become still. And you can either close your eyes or just keep them open in a soft gaze. And now just inviting you to turn your attention to the breath. Just begin to follow each breath in and each breath out all the way to its natural end. So just slowly dropping into your breath and easing down into the body. Remembering that you have a body, appreciating your body as a vehicle, as something that is more than a vehicle, that just moves you around from A to B as we move through our days, largely immersed in and distracted by the non-stop stream of thoughts generated by our minds. So just appreciating our body as we drop back into it. And as you continue to breathe, just noticing where you experience the breath most vividly, most clearly. And perhaps for you, that might be noticing it at the nostrils as you breathe in. Or for you, it might be most prominent at the chest as you feel the chest rise and fall. Or perhaps you feel it down in the belly. But wherever you feel it, just noting that. Just inviting you to take a few more deep breaths in and out, in your own rhythm, in your own pace. And allow the mind and the body just to begin to soften and relax. So naturally allow your breathing to become light and easy. Allowing the rise and fall of the breath to happen in its own time and in its own pace. So just following the breath as it flows through you, breath by breath and moment by moment. No need to control the breath in any way. Your body knows exactly how to breathe you, whether or not your attention is focused on your breath. So just allow the process to happen easily and naturally as you tune into the full duration of the in-breath and the full duration of the out-breath. Very likely you may notice thoughts arising as you sit, thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, thoughts about something you should have said or done, perhaps even a thought about what I'm asking you to do right now. But don't make an effort to look for thoughts. But when they do arrive, and they will, because that's what the mind does, rather than trying to resist them or shut them out, just simply notice them as a movement, as they drift across the screen of your mind. Every time a thought gets in between you and your observation of your breath, just notice the thought that's come up, but don't get involved in its content. Don't take any thought too seriously. Just allow your mind to stay focused on your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Following the flow of the air as it goes into your body, through your nostrils, and noticing how the chest and the abdomen rise and fall naturally as the breath flows in and flows out. When you are focused on the breath, you are always focused on the present, because you cannot get a breath from the past back, and you cannot breathe in a future breath before you breathe here and now. So just slowing down, resting in the breath, dropping back into the body. At this point, you may still have a number of active thoughts going through your mind, and just remember to notice them from afar, as if you were an observer or a bystander. Breathing in and breathing out. As you focus your attention on the breath, I invite you now to approach this meditation with the intention to simplify and to slow down and to invite inner peace. Because inner peace means in you. We're always trying to find peace and to go to peace and to look for peace. But here's the deal. There is nowhere to go because peace is already inside you. And today we're just going to tap into that reservoir of peace, that huge resource that awaits only our invitation, our permission, our instruction even. And to remember also when you are meditating, there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, no special something that you need to be feeling. All we have to do is breathe. First thing you did when you were born is breathe without giving it a second thought. It was an innate part of you to breathe. And yet we rarely notice our breath unless it is restricted in some way. So right now, just breathing in, really breathing in and breathing out. It's the most natural thing in the world. And again, breathing in consciously, breathing out consciously, breathing in and receiving, breathing out and letting go. We take a breath in and we give a breath away. We receive and we let go. So now you have the balance of taking and receiving, receiving and giving. You take a breath and you take one back. You give a breath, you take one back. You take a breath, you give one away. And there is balance. So just breathing in and letting go of thinking, of controlling, allowing an open space for peace to come to naturally unfold. You don't have to go to peace. You don't have to find inner peace. It will find you. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do. Just allow peace to come to you by focusing on your breathing, breathing in and breathing out, giving, receiving, receiving and giving. Staying with your breath as you continue to listen to me, always coming back to the breath, especially when you notice the mind has stepped in front of you, noticing your breathing. So right now, just choosing this peace, choosing to feel it, to be in it. Taking a few moments of complete silence, dropping into this peace, allowing this peace, this wonderful sense of rejuvenating stillness to relax and refresh your entire system as you breathe in and breathe out. Sitting in stillness, resting in the breath, resting in the body. Breathing in and breathing out, giving yourself permission to let go of the reins, to show up to this moment, to just be in your body, to just be in the breath. Always coming back to the breath, feeling the rise and fall of the chest in the belly, feeling the coolness of the air as you breathe in through the nostrils, and the slightly warmer temperature of that same air as you breathe out. Each in-breath, a new beginning, each out-breath, a letting go, a letting be. So in touch with this breath coming in touch with this breath coming out. When you notice thinking is here, just recognizing that and gently coming back to this direct experience as best as you can, being with the body as it sits here breathing. No matter how many times the mind may wander, we keep bringing awareness back to our breath and back to a sense of the body as a whole. Just allowing everything to be as it is. Breathing in and breathing out, sitting in stillness. And remembering that the breath is always here, always available as an anchor to bring us back to this present moment, always available to steady us when we feel off balance and under pressure, to come back to a sense of ourselves as whole and complete, just as we are. And so when you're ready, just coming back to this brand new moment, opening your eyes if you have them closed, just bringing your attention back to the present moment that is this moment. Okay, so when we did that first exercise and I asked you not to think, I'm sure most of you found that very, very difficult and it's quite a hard thing. I wonder if you noticed the difference that what happened in this little exercise that we did, just focusing on the breath, using the breath and the body only. That's all we were doing. But we weren't trying to shut down the mind, because that's an impossible task. We were giving our thoughts permission to come and go. Every time we noticed the sort of attention hijack, we just brought our attention back to the breath and back to the body. So there was an acceptance of what we noticed, not a judgment or a denial. And this is a really different way of using the body and using the breath to really bring us into the present moment. An acceptance of what we noticed, not a judgment or a denial, just letting everything be. Not trying to control anything, just being aware of what is, and all the while very much grounded in the body and in the breath. And I wonder if you notice that whilst you're in that deep state of mindfulness, or even if it wasn't deep, whatever state you managed to achieve, did you notice that nothing of value about you was missing or lost? Even though we leave all the traffic of thought and all our worries and all our opinions in the wings, as it were. We were still present, still very alert, still very conscious. And that's kind of the essence of meditation anyway, especially mindfulness meditation, to be alert and to be present and without having to think. So just resting in that stillness. So using the breath and using the body are super effective practice tools for one of the types of mindfulness meditation. Because just like the breath, the body is always available to you from the moment we are born, right the way through our lives. The body is available as an anchor. And in moments of ease and in peace, in moments of rest, and even in moments of difficulty or challenge, the body is always available as somewhere to come back to. Your anchor, your awareness in your body. How many times have we heard people say, stop, breathe, breathe, when people are getting distressed? Come back and breathe. So, you know, this idea of practicing just breathing, following your breath and getting a sense of being back in residence in your body. It puts you in touch with the body's wisdom, because your body will tell you things your mind will talk you out of. And you know, I'm not expecting you to take my word for anything I'm saying. I've been practicing this for a long time. And the more I've done it, the more sort of back at home I've been in my body, begun to realize that the body has its own sort of sense of wisdom, its own sense of knowing. So I would encourage you to practice regularly, just with this one we've done with breath. Just try trusting the body. The breath is a great tool too, because it completely narrows down our focus. So if I asked you to actually think about your breath, or to focus on your breath and have a thought, it's impossible to do the two fully. We have to dedicate ourselves to thinking, or we have to dedicate ourselves to the breath. Now, there are times when we need to think, so we want to do that in a focused way. But when we're dedicated to the breath, when we're following every breath in all the way to its natural end and all the way out, there isn't room. It's not possible to think. And of course, thoughts do come during these practices. But the more we do it, the more quickly we start to notice, I've gone into thinking, so I'm just going to pull myself back, come back to my breath. So, of course, there are lots of ways and focusing exercises that some, like, for instance, employ the senses. In classes, in face-to-face stuff, I bring in raisins, I bring in chocolates and oranges. So we engage the senses mindfully. You know, we study peel an orange, or look at a raisin, or really focus in on a leaf. And you'll be surprised as you narrow down the focus, the world of detail that starts to open up. You know, whether we're looking at something, whether we're listening to something, you know, and there are lots of ways to do mindfulness. It's not just meditating and thinking about breath, it's through body movement. It might be yoga. You can bring mindfulness to lots of daily activities. It might be sort of, people who say to me often, I've got no time for all this mindfulness business, I'm busy. But, you know, we can do mindfulness while you're walking, while you're swimming, while you're running, while you're sitting on a park bench. You can bring your focus into the here and now. You can do it while you're washing the dishes. You can do it while you're having a shower, while you're brushing your teeth. So many ways you can activities you can use, even if you say, I haven't got time to sit down and sort of meditate. There are so many activities in your day that you can say, I'm just going to brush my teeth, and totally be with brushing my teeth. Okay, so I'm going to just go back to the slides if I can. So please bear with me. what mindfulness isn't. Just wanted to really quickly touch on this because there are a lot of myths about it. You may have heard, you know, it's all a bit sort of mumbo jumbo, it's all a bit out there, it's only for hippies, or you know, there's lots of ideas about what it is, but I just wanted to touch on what mindfulness isn't. And it's not a religion, it is not a faith, it's not some sort of intellectual exercise, it's not a replacement for medicine or any kind of psychological therapies. It's certainly not a quick fix. It's not some sort of panacea that's going to make your life okay tomorrow. It's a tool. It's just a tool that can be really powerful and really effective. It's not about getting somewhere or attaining a goal. It's not even about emptying the mind. That happens automatically, perhaps, when we practice. But it's not about just sort of relaxing or escaping from life. And we're not trying with mindfulness practice to get somewhere. We are trying to be somewhere. And where we are trying to be is right here and right now. So just wanted to touch on that, really, just to bust some of those myths in case people sort of had ideas about what it might be. Okay, we're going to do another practice now. And this one is it's very short, and it's a mindfulness of thoughts practice. So I'm going to come out of this and just go into my other little notes I've made. And as I said, this is called mindfulness of thoughts. And just to say that we often treat thoughts as if they were facts. For example, I'm no good at this, or he's angry, or nobody understands me, or I'm brilliant, or life is difficult, life is not fair, I should be stronger, I should be tougher, etc. When we have the same thought many times, it can start to condense itself into a belief. So what we think is a deeply held belief about ourselves or about something or someone else, it might actually boil down to being a thought we've had a lot of times. Beliefs can then be taken as facts. For example, the world is flat. We all heard that in the past, you know, enough people had that thought often enough for it to be assumed to be true for centuries. But when we start to pay attention to our thoughts with a gentle curiosity, then we start to think about thinking as a dynamic, as something generated in the mind, but not something we necessarily are. So what happens is we start to see that we are actually more than the sum total of our thoughts, that we can begin to move away from believing that every thought we have, every thought we entertain is somehow a rock solid fact. It's very easy when we don't have mindfulness practice allows us to step back from the mind, step back from those thoughts so we can view them through a different lens. But for many people, we're just living out of our thoughts as if that's what we are, that's what we do, and that's what's true. So with our next meditation, over the next few minutes, you're going to have the opportunity just to watch your thoughts come and go and to practice becoming an observer of your own thoughts. So being able to watch your thoughts come and go rather than getting pulled in and swept away by them is a really, really helpful skill to cultivate. Practicing bringing mindful attention to the thoughts generated by the mind, it can really unhook us from that habitual spiraling of our thoughts, getting lost in thought, being pulled away from the present moment, or just getting stuck in rumination. So you can use this meditation. It's really helpful when you find yourself sort of lost in rumination and in unhelpful ways. And perhaps just when you want to practice observing your mind, it's a really good little exercise to do. So again, just making yourself comfortable in a position where you can remain still for a few minutes. Again, you can feel free to close your eyes or just lower them in a soft gaze. And just allow your attention to settle into your body as you follow a few cycles of breath. So feeling the breath as it comes in and as it goes out. Not trying to force anything, just letting everything be as it is. And of course, soon enough, thoughts will arise and you will notice your mind wandering. And when you notice that you're thinking, see if you can just silently say to yourself, it's only thinking, it's only a thought. Apply the label thinking to these thoughts and then release them, just letting them move on down that river of thought as you come back to being aware of your breath. Now, every time a thought comes up, just notice it. Perhaps say to yourself, it's only thinking. Come back to the breath. Notice the thoughts that pull you away again, and label again, silently saying to yourself, thinking, it's only a thought. So you bring your attention back to your breath. So using the label to help you notice changes your perspective just slightly on those thoughts, helping you to see them as just thoughts, making it a little easier to help you notice them and let them go as you bring your attention back to the breath. So what we're doing is just noticing the thought as it comes up, labeling it, it's simply a thought, and letting it go. You might imagine those thoughts as clouds passing by, or like leaves floating down a stream. So basically, as you continue to breathe, you're just noticing those thoughts as a movement of mental energy. So just be the observer. Notice your thoughts come, notice what the thought is about, and then just let it go. You may even find that it will go as easily as it arrived if you just make an effort not to follow any particular thought, not to get involved in its content. You're just watching as they rise, as those thoughts rise into the field of your awareness, and then watching as they fade away. So see if you can greet each thought, label it, and then just watch it as it passes by, noticing the quiet space between any thoughts as you return your attention to your breath. And of course, sooner or later, the mind will try again to pull your attention away from noticing your breath. And it may succeed before you even realize. You may notice that the same type of thoughts keep coming by, and if so, you can choose a more specific type of label. Maybe you noticed yourself making plans, and if so, label those thoughts as planning. Or perhaps you noticed judgments. Just label those thoughts as judging, and then let them go and come back to the breath. Other types of thoughts you may notice are thoughts centered on remembering, worrying, wanting, wishing, liking, disliking, anticipating, fearing, dreading, hoping, and so on. Whatever label comes to mind, simply notice it, label it, and let it go. And again, once again, bringing your attention back to your breath. If you get lost in thought, notice that, label it as lost. And again, gently returning your attention to the sensations of the breath, noticing the rise and fall of your breath as it moves in and out of your body, letting your breath be your anchor to your present moment experience, noticing any emerging spaces between the end of one thought and the beginning of another. Really noticing those spaces, because those spaces, those little gaps that start to open up when we really become interested in what's going on in our mind as we continue to breathe, those are the spaces we can rest in. And in those spaces, we can watch the movement of the mind. We can watch those thoughts. We can look at those thoughts objectively and ask ourselves, is that thought helpful? Does that thought support me? Does that thought even like me? And so as we prepare to just bring this second meditation practice to a close, perhaps repeat with or after me the following. May my thinking mind be at ease. May I be at ease with my thinking mind. May my thinking mind be at ease. May I be at ease with my thinking mind. And just repeating these phrases with the intention of cultivating a more friendly relationship with the thinking mind. So what we're doing is cultivating a different kind of relationship. We're not living out of the mind. We're stepping into a new awareness that helps us notice the sorts of thoughts that are going through our mind. Notice the quality of those thoughts. Noticing if they're helpful, if they're supportive, if they're encouraging. Do they beat us up? Do they tell us off? Do they tell us we're no good? Are they kind to us, or are they cruel to us? And when you're ready, just inviting you to bring your awareness back into the body. Feel yourself present back in the room you were in, perhaps opening your eyes, they were closed. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our slides. Okay, so again, hopefully what that little mindfulness exercise showed you is how we can create a sort of distance between us, the observer, the witness, and the thoughts that the mind generates. And if you can see this, this little PowerPoint I've got up here, so in the one picture, you've got that picture of that person saying, I'm unlovable. And in the other picture, when we create the distance, when we step back, rather than just living out of I am lovable as a truth, what we say to ourselves, because we're starting to become mindful of our thoughts, is, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm unlovable. And you see the difference there. And it's really, really powerful, because to move into that sort of state of awareness means that the self who's saying I'm unlovable, as soon as we notice what we're doing, we can then change that. We can question that. Why am I doing that? Why am I unlovable? Who says I'm unlovable? What's the evidence for that? You see what I'm saying? So mindfulness invites us into a new sort of relationship with ourselves, especially with our mind and all those thoughts that it generates. So we start to look at stuff. We start to question stuff. We're not judging anything. We're just noticing and moving from, like I say, I am unlovable as a default setting, to a new kind of awareness that says, I see I'm having a particular kind of thought. So I think that's why I think that mindfulness of thoughts meditation practice is a really good one, you know, to just sort of check in. And if you find yourself perhaps, I don't know, you know, at the end of the day or something, really stressed out, or you're really sort of ahead of yourself, or don't feel like you're in your body, sometimes just slowing down and doing this practice, start with the breath. It's always about coming back to the breath. But then when you slow down enough, get into the body, get into the breath, then just start to look, see what's coming from the mind. You might notice those thoughts are really tough on me today. They're really, really stressing, or they're really reactive stress. They're really reactive sort of thoughts. So I understand why I'm like I am, you know, why I'm tense, why I'm tight, why I'm angry, as it were. So like I said, this is a really powerful tool, I think, that you can adopt to start to cultivate a very different relationship with your thinking, with the thinking. So thinking is a dynamic. It's not you. You are not the sum total of your thoughts. You are not the sum total of your emotions. Thoughts and emotions are almost like a sort of, you are the awareness, which thoughts move across, which emotions move across. So their thoughts and emotions are like weather patterns. They come and they go, but they're happening to somebody. Those thoughts are happening to somebody. Those emotions are happening to somebody. And that somebody is you, the witness, that we want to invite to really come into awareness. Because when we start to really notice our thoughts, we can then make different decisions. We can stop and we can respond instead of reacting, as it were. Okay, so just moving on. And this, I think, is a nice little illustration again, when I was talking earlier about your body is always present. So when we just tune into the body and tune into the breath, as that chap is at the bottom of this picture, and he's just here, he's just present. When we're not mindful and we're not present, although the body is here, we're here, but the mind has gone, and it's usually gone back to what we said was an unchangeable past, or the, if only it happened differently, I should have done this, why did I do that, why did he say that, I don't understand, it's not fair. And we go over and over and over in our mind sometimes, things that are completely set forever. There is no changing them. Or we're in an imagined future. You know, I won't be able to cope. What if it goes wrong? How will it happen? I'll never be able to manage to do it. What is even the point of all this? You know, what if, how, when? And we're caught up in something that has nothing to do with the present moment. So that chap, we want to be that chap at the bottom who's here now, because without all that stress of the past, thinking about the past and going into the future to worry about things, if we're just present now and we can show up to the present, we will make the very best decisions that we can. Our choices will be informed. We will be much more spontaneous. We'll be more connected to our creativity. We'll be more connected to the pulse of life, because as I said, life is happening now in the present moment, and everything else is happening in here. So that idea of, we use the body to serve like an anchor, and we use the breath, because the body and the breath are always here. So again, just going on from that, just to be mindful of what it is we're telling ourselves. What stories are we telling ourselves about ourselves? Because the mind tends to believe what we tell it. So we need to get into the habit. We need to get into a mindful way of being, of starting to tell ourselves great things about ourselves. And even if you think there may be some of you thinking, well, there's nothing great about me, there's nothing great about my life, so what's the point of that? That's one of those very thoughts to start noticing. Okay, how is that helping me, that thought? If I go straight there, so, and even if you start saying to yourself, yep, I am great, and you don't believe it, even if you keep saying it, it's almost a sort of fake it to make it. It's like cranking an engine. You keep saying something over and over and over. As I said earlier, thoughts turn into beliefs eventually. So if we're going to create beliefs out of thoughts, let's have really good thoughts to turn into really helpful beliefs. Okay, so and this one I just wanted to share with you as well. I liked just what it said. I came across this. Worrying does not solve tomorrow's problems. It takes away today's peace. So we go back to him. The man in the bottom is experiencing today's peace. The man on the top is his present moment. His now is stressed and pressured, and he's overwhelmed and he's worried, and half of his time is in the past and half of his time is in the future and distracted. So just coming back to that, just wanted to reiterate that worrying is a sort of thankless task. I don't know anybody, myself, and I don't know if any of you listening know of anybody who has ever worried their way out of a situation. It's just, if you have, then let me know, because I've never heard of it. Okay, so we're going to do another little practice, and this one is practice on self-acceptance. And I thought this would be a good one to do as well, because we tend to be so hard on ourselves, and the world and all the messages that come from the world tell us that we should be these shiny, happy people holidaying here and having the dog, the car, the perfect life and all that sort of stuff. And we get into the business of measuring ourselves. Again, this is the sort of when we're not mindful and just living out of those thoughts. I'm not doing good enough. I'm not doing well enough. So-and-so seems to be okay. I'm not this, I'm not that. So I thought we'd just do a little mindfulness practice on self-acceptance. So I'm just going to come out of this and just go into our next practice. Okay. Oops, excuse me. All right. So, meditation for self-acceptance. Just making yourself comfortable, taking a moment to just elongate your spine, making it upright, but not rigid or tense. And with your eyes closed or just resting in a soft gaze, start to notice your breathing. Take a moment to scan the entire body. Just allow your awareness to move over your body, noticing any areas that, if possible, can be softened and released of any tension. And once you've just scanned very lightly your body, just move fully to noticing the breath. Use each breath to continue the release process throughout your body. Take a few slow, deep breaths to encourage relaxation, and then allow your breath to eventually return to its natural rhythm and flow. And as you breathe deeply, just notice where the breath flows into your body. Notice how it makes your body feel, any sensations that arise with each breath. Dropping into the breath, getting a sense of being back home in the body. And if we are in breath and if we are in body, it means we are here. And self-acceptance begins with the approval of who you are right now, in this moment. True acceptance includes that which you like about yourself and that which you may feel is not enough about you. When you are not in competition with another, and when you are able to look with kind eyes unto yourself, then you find the good, then you find the beauty, the intelligence and the wisdom that is the true representation of what and who you are. In all the ways that love finds you, let it be here now in the beauty of who you are, in the wisdom of what you are, of all what you are, of what you live as. So just settling into that sense of acceptance, the appreciation of what you are in this moment, even though you may continue to evolve and become more. And you just say to yourself, I am enough as I am in this moment. And as you hear yourself saying those words, just notice how that allows you to feel. I am enough as I am in this moment. So we hold self-acceptance just by offering love and approval and kindness to yourself right now. Can you be your very best friend? Continuing to stay aware of the breath as you listen to these words. There is no need to control your breath. Simply use the awareness of your breath to hold your attention in this moment so you fully hear these words. Your mind may naturally drift off into thoughts, and that's okay. It's what the mind does. When you recognize the mind is drifting, just acknowledge your thoughts without following them into a drawn-out story. Coming back to your breath as an anchor. Each breath is your place to be fully present. Breathing in and breathing out. Self-acceptance means accepting yourself exactly as you are, without any wishes of how you should be or how you could be. And this practice of self-acceptance, just allowing whoever you find yourself to be in this moment, without any criticism, without any judgment, is a powerful step forwards towards freedom and easiness and peace in your life. It is knowing deep down in your heart that you are enough as you are. It means being comfortable with your body, your emotions, and your mind. It means accepting what you have achieved, as well as what you have not yet accomplished. Acceptance of all your strengths, as well as those things you consider your flaws. It means being exactly who you are, and not who you want others to see you as. Accepting yourself is not about praising yourself or receiving praise from others. It means you have a sense from within that you feel loved simply because you are being yourself. When you love and accept yourself, you are authentic and you can begin to trust yourself. With self-acceptance comes a love and a compassion for ourselves, the ability to forgive ourselves, and the ability to recognize and learn from our mistakes so we can grow. When you love and accept yourself, you know who you are, and you are able to celebrate your strengths. You are whole and innately good, and you are enough. We may not even realize that we have a lack of self-acceptance, and therefore it sometimes shows up in a variety of different ways that we may not even be aware of. It may be present as making harmful choices or unconscious self-sabotage. We may be dependent or reliant on others to make us feel good about ourselves. Or we may try to avoid or numb the feeling of being unworthy or not good enough. We may strive for perfection or procrastinate to avoid the risk of failure. And so as we build this awareness of yourself, just invite any feelings you may be having right now to show up and just allow them to be. No need to think about them or criticize them or have an opinion. Just welcome both positive and seemingly negative feelings and honor what they are without judging or trying to change anything. Accepting any positive emotions and know you deserve to feel good. And if any negative emotions come to the surface, treat yourself as you would a loved one. Do for yourself what you would do for someone else that you care about. So knowing these emotions are just that, simply emotions. They are not you. They do not make you the person you are. Without changing anything, can you simply meet yourself exactly where you are in this present moment? Letting go of judgments of ourselves and comparisons to others, letting go of unmet and unrealistic expectations. Let go of the need for perfection. To be human is to be imperfect. Let go of past versions of yourself. Let go of negative self-talk. Letting go of shame, letting go of guilt, letting it all go. Can you dare to let it all go? See all this melting off your body just to be gone. Breathing in and breathing out. Can you meet yourself? Can you meet your feelings where they are with kindness and compassion? Can you continue to build this self-acceptance? Taking one more deep breath, sending it to the area of your heart to make space for unconditional acceptance. You are worthy of you. And so when you're ready, opening your eyes if they were closed, just coming back. Okay, so one more final little screen share as we come to the end of our hour, which has gone incredibly quickly. Practice is all. I've only in this very quick hour just shared a couple of practices with you, using the body, using the breath, mindfulness of those thoughts, and a little final one there about self-acceptance sort of thing. But however you may find it works for you, and as I said, if it might be doing an activity, you can be mindfulness while you're washing a plate. You'll be surprised how interesting a plate can become when you really focus on what you are doing. But ultimately, however we do it, it's practice is all. Mindfulness is dose related. So the more we do it, the better the rewards. And I really want to repeat that. The more we do it, the better the rewards. And even if, it sounds like a good idea, but ultimately you think, it's a struggle or it's not for me, this kind of thing. Just bring your attention to those very thoughts that may be resisting, because I think with this, I can't force you to do it. Of course I can't. It'll be a choice. It'll be up to you ultimately. But I think sometimes we don't just give ourselves enough of an opportunity. I think we're very quick to write things off, especially if they're new. But if anything has come up for you, or even if you've just got a tiny little bit of a flavour of it, that might be just enough of a seedling to get you on. And again, if you want to know more, if you just go to YouTube, mindfulness meditations, mindfulness practice, ideas, things, there's so many, there's a glut of information out there to help you continue with this into a practice. And of course, don't forget, we have the meditation sessions twice a week, so they can be part of your ongoing practice as well. So I think that's going to end our hour. I don't want to call on too much of your time. Thank you so much for turning up. I really appreciate your interest and your curiosity, and I really hope you've been able to take something away from this hour together. So thank you very much.